Welcome to the fastest daf in town. Today, Masechtas Nedarim daf Ayin. We are going to begin on Samech Tes Amud Beis at the very bottom. So we asked the following question. As we saw in yesterday's daf, there's a series of questions that were asked because when it comes to a woman who makes a neder, so you could be mefer the neder, you could remove it, or you could do hakama, you could establish it. So we were discussing different possible situations of how one thing could remove the other. So we end up establishing the ein hafar achar hakama, that once you've already established the neder and you verified it, you can't annul it anymore. So on this, the Gemara asks, boy Rabbi. Again, Rabbi asks another question. What if a person says, Kayim lichi hayoim, that I want this to work today? Now, we know you only have this one day to be mayfair. You can't do hafar the next day. But it's interesting, the fact that you said hayom, mahu, mi amrinan, kamandi armula, mufar. It almost sounds like you're saying, I don't want it to last for more than a day. And therefore, it's really not a hakama, because the hakama has a kitzvah, has a set time limit, and therefore, because of that, after the day, it should be like it was annulled. Odilma holo armula. The implication here isn't enough, and you would actually need to do an explicit hafara. And since you didn't, then it wouldn't work. So this is the question. We look in the round over here, in the very last line, the hachi karmer kaim lichen hayoim bilvad. So the round throws in the word only today. Odilma haloy amrula muflichi lamachar. You didn't say it explicitly. So that's the question. Now, as we continue in Ayin Amud Aleph, we're going to build onto this question. That im tim saloimer, if you want to give the answer that halo amrullah, that he didn't say it, and therefore, since he's not saying that tomorrow it will be mufar, so therefore it doesn't work. It can't. There's no hafara. So amrullah mufar lichi lamachar mahu. What if he said it more explicitly? They'll do hafar. It'll be hafar tomorrow. Now again, you normally can only do it for the day, but you are saying today that you're going to want it annulled tomorrow. Maybe you can't do that because the hakayim l'nidrei hayom, because at least you're doing hakama today. So once you've done hakama today, so you can't do hafara, because once hakama takes place, you can't do hafara afterwards. Since you didn't say that you're mekayim it today, you weren't explicit, you said that tomorrow I'm going to be mefer. Now the implication is that must be that that today it is verified, because you're saying tomorrow it'll be annulled, which is mashma today it's not. But the fact is, again, you didn't say it explicitly, and therefore kivandul amrul kaim lechi hayom ki karmul mufar lechi lamachar. It's like when you said that it's mufar tomorrow. Mehayoim kaimer. It's like you're actually doing the hafara now. Because again, just like we said in the first question, do we say the implication implies something, or do we say it has to be beferish? And since you didn't mention any hakama, so therefore it's a hafara. And it's like the hafara took place today. Do we maybe say it doesn't make a difference? The fact that you were mekayim it today, even implicitly, machar command ise dami. Tomorrow, it's like the kiyum is actually still there, and therefore the next day is unfit for doing hafara. Normally, so in that case, what if a person says kayim lichi shah, only for an hour, not the whole day, only for a time? So mi amrinan kamandi armula mufrachil la'achar shah dami. So again, based on the implication, it sounds like the hakama is only for 1 hour. What within that same first day, after that first hour, implies that there's a hafara. Odilma halo armula. Again, you weren't explicit, so maybe it's not a hafara. So imtim salerma halo armula. You didn't really say it that there's a hafara. Miu armula mai. What if he actually does say it? Mi amrin kivan de kimu. Do we say that since he was mekayim it, that's it? It doesn't matter if it's just for an hour. That's hakama. Therefore, you can't do hafar afterwards. Odilma kivan de kul yoma bar hakama bar farahu. You have the whole day to do it. Ki amr mufal achar shamahani. So the fact is that you should be able to do the hafara afterwards. So it's not really like you've done a hakama because it was only for a limited amount of time. So maybe the hakama is only for an hour, then afterwards the afar actually works. So tashma. So on this, let's see if there's a Ran over here. Okay. Fine. So tashma, hareini nazira. Let's say a person says that I'm a nazir, but shama balon. Her husband overheard that she made herself into a nazira. The Omer, and he says va'ani. All he says is one word. He says, and I. So ein yachol hafer. At that point, he can no longer annul it. So if you look at the last line in the Ran, it says, Diksavar, Dikivan Demer Va'ani. Once he says, and I, Stama Kamandi Armer Kayim Lichi Oilum Dami. It's as though he's actually establishing it forever. This is going to be actually the answer. If Shitel Chumer Hilkach Loy Havi Hafar. Okay. So, Vamai. So actually that's going to be the answer that we'll get to. Name Va'ani the Armer Hual Navshe. Maybe when he says Atni, he's talking about himself. With regard to her acceptance, the Sha'achas Kaima. Maybe he only wants it for a certain amount of time. Afterwards, afterwards he should be able to do Mefer. Why can't he do it? My answer is Lo. Oilam Kol Va'ani. In fact, he says Va'ani, which we saw in the Ran. Va'ani is not just on myself, but he's also doing Hakama completely for her. And it's not just for a short amount of time. It's kind of hard to even understand the Havamina, why that would be the situation. But nonetheless, perhaps that was the Havamina that perhaps we could answer from this case. The answer is no. When you said Va'ani in that situation, you're doing Hakamul Olam, which is why at that point, you have no longer have the ability to be made for her. Mashenkin, maybe in our situations, the boy to live shata, it's not so clear what the din is. TA 15. I got this question completely wrong. Hareini nazir v'shama ba'ala v'yamar v'ani ein yachol hafer. So this was a question I on my first time I took a test, and I got this wrong 7.5 years ago. So, my ma'ase b'gemara raya medin zeh. What does the Gemara, why do we bring this Gemara down, and how do we end up saying it's not an answer? So, it says, the kaim lechi shah, mufal lechi la'achar shah, in yolachal hafer. V'dachi, the chol di'omer v'ani, command di'omer kaim lechi la'oylam. V'ani is not only for a shah, for an hour, which is hard to even hear, but you have to understand the Havamina of the Gemara. But nonetheless, it's referring specifically to la'oylam, forever. Okay. Let's see the next Mishnah. Mesa'av. So we have over here a situation, again, when we talked about the beginning of the parak, the din of a Nair Marasa, the father and the husband both must do hafara on the same day, or else the neder is still chal. So what happens if the father dies? So the husband doesn't take over his koyach. Therefore, it doesn't matter, even though, let's say, the husband is made for the neder, he doesn't have the full rights to be able to remove this neder. On the other hand, Meis Habal, we'll have to understand the reason why, but if the husband would die, then the kayach does go to the father. In other words, the father will have the sole ability to be able to annul his daughter's neder in the situation where the husband dies. But in the event that the father died, the husband doesn't have the full authority to be able to annul her vow. Okay. And this we see that the strength of the father is stronger than that of a husband. However, in the opposite way, sometimes the father has less power. The din is that once she reaches the age of Bagrus, so when she's 12 and a half, as we see in Rashi, it says, so it's only time the father has koyach is only when she's at the stage of nairus. But when she's a bogeres, then no longer does the father have reshus. So this is question 1. which is Beferish Mishnah, B'ma Yafa Koyach Habal, Mekoyach Av, B'ma Yafa Koyach Av, Mekoyach Habal. So this is Beferish Mishnah, that the father dies, the husband does not have the koyach to be made for Nedarim by himself. However, if the husband dies, the father does have that koyach, so that's a stronger koyach the father has regarding being able to be made for his daughter's Nedarim. On the other hand, once she reaches the age of the Bagros, the father no longer has Rishus to be made for the Nedarim. Masha'en Kain, the husband does. Let's see the Gemara. So, my taima, what is the whole reason behind this? So what my taima was? So the Ran says, my taima nisreik Rishus Baal kamol av. Why do we say that the husband has no rights when the father dies, but we said that the father has rights when the husband dies? The Yomi the pasuk has been around base aviyah. It's based on this pasuk, which is a naira in the base aviyah, the house. She's still bebeis. She's bebeis aviyah. She's in the father's house. Now, Mace Habal, if the husband died, Nisnarek Nirshasal Baal, La'av. So we say, in that situation, actually, let's go slow. So this is telling us that the husband does not have rights. Says the Ran, Mashma Afagav Delesi La'av, Akati Ise Bebeis Aviyah. That even when the father is not around, let's say he died, and all is left is the father's house, still she is beveis aviyah. Even if it's not just baviyah, even when the father's not alive, but it's beis aviyah, nonetheless, he doesn't have the koyach. So the pasuk says, and it mentions the word, it says siyeh, im hoyu siyeh, which is shtei havoyos b'mashma. It sounds like two languages of marriage, if you will. And the Nedarim are upon you as we continue to ayin amud beis. Makish koidme havoya shnil koidme havoya rishayna. We make a connection between the earlier relationship to the second one. Ma koidme, when she was before. In other words, when she was a penuya, havoya rishayna, av mefer l'chude, the father at that point was considered had all the strength to be able to marry to be made for her completely. Av koin mi havoy shnia, also after, let's say she was her first husband died, and now she goes basically back to her father. Av mefer l'chude. So also the father still has full rights. So that's what the Ran says. That the second one has the same koyach as the first. Maybe that's only talking about a situation where the husband had no idea. He never heard that there was a neder. Says the Ran, Dumya de koidme havoy rishayna. It's comparable to when she was a penuya. He didn't even know her. Right? He wasn't married to her. Shul nirul oris klal. Right? She was a penuya. Of Nedarim, for the Gemara, of Nedarim shenirul oris lo matzi meifarav. Says the Ran, of Nedarim shenirul oris, he knew about it. He knew about it before the husband died. Maybe the father can't be mefer. Her answers, no. Even Nedarim shel nidrul oris b'nereh beisaviyah nafka. So this is an important point. Question 2: why do we need two psukim that to tell us that the Mesa Baal, that when the husband dies, this Reikner Shusl Av, that it goes to the father has total koyach? So one is the first, what we just mentioned over here, the Shtei Havoyas, is coming to tell you that if the husband knew about it, b'shas, before he was alive, he knew about it, then he died, the husband knew about it, and then the husband died, the father has koyach. But even in a situation where he didn't know about it, or if he didn't know about it, or even if he did know about it, because this case is talking about a case where he didn't know about it. Because just like he didn't know about it when she was a penuya, so also we're connecting it and saying he didn't know about it now. So maybe that's when we say since he didn't know about it, so and then he dies, then the father has koyach. But maybe if he does know, maybe not. So that's why you have the second pasuk of B'nereh Beis Aviyah to tell us the din is also in that situation even in a situation where he knew about it, nonetheless, he still has and then he dies, the father can still be made for the Nedarim. Okay. So Hechidami, what exactly is the case over here? Are we talking about that again? The father has this koyach over the husband. So let's say he was Makadish when she was still between 12 and 12 and a half. Ubagra, and then she became 12 and a half during Kedushin. So they didn't become husband and wife entirely, they didn't do Nisuin. So he did Kedushin and while she was a Naira, and then she became a Bulgaris. And they're still not completely married, they didn't do Nisuin. So Mechti. Misa Moitziu Bagras Moitzia. We know that Misa removes her, as well as the fact that when she reaches a certain age, it removes her. Murshos Av, from the father's domain. Ma Misa, just like if the father dies, we say that the husband doesn't have that koyach. So we should say Abagras and Nisrak. So too, when she becomes a Bulgaris, also the husband should not have full rights. So again, if we're talking about a situation comparing the husband's rights to the father's rights, it can't be the situation where if it was a Nair Marasa, he married her, he did Erison, and then she became a Bulgaris, because at that point, we don't say that the husband would have full rights. We wouldn't say that. Okay, fine, maybe the father doesn't have rights to be Mefer, but the husband also doesn't. Because just like Misa, when it comes to the father who dies, the husband doesn't have koyach to be able to be made from the Nedarim, so too when it comes to if she becomes a Bulgaris, he also shouldn't have the right to be made for her Nedarim. So how do we understand our Mishnah? El shekid shekashi Bulgaris. We're talking about the Kedushin took place when she was already a Bulgaris. So in that situation, the din is that the father has no rights and the husband has rights. So Tanya, what do you mean? Tanina Chadazim, where do you learn this? It says, Ha-Bulgaris sheshasa yud beis chaydesh. If you have a Bulgaris that waited for 12 months, in other words, they had Kedushin at the time that she was a Bulgaris, and then 12 months go by. During that time, he's trying to organize everything, and then he's supposed to marry her. If not, he's mechuyev to give her mazonos. So, Hagufa Kasha. Amrit, we said before, Amrit, Ha-Bulgaris sheshasa shteimas hachodesh, she waits for 12 months, Bulgaris lomali, why, when it comes to Bulgaris, do we have to wait 12 months? Bulgaris Lamed Yom Sagula. We learned elsewhere that the amount of time preparation is only 30 days for a Bulgaris, not a year. Says the Ran, Shul Posku Chamim Bulgaris El Shloshim Yoim. It was only 30 days. Umekandi Elach Habal Chayim Mazonoseha. He has to give her Mazonos after 30 days. Says the Ran, the whole Sha'avar Leha Yubes Chaydesh. The only time we say you have 12 months is Mishibagra. If from the time she became a Bulgaris, even the Skadshul Acher Mikain, let's say she got engaged afterwards, Eno El Lamed Yom. That's only if she was Kedushin on the day of Bagras. But let's say again she's already a little bit older, she's 20, right? So then it's 30 days. Skipping all the way down, we understand that the husband has the ability to do hafara because he's also mechuyev to give the mazonos. So the Gemara says you're right. Tani should insert Bulgaris, case of a Bulgaris, and shishahasa yud beis chaydish, or in a situation of 12 months. So then in those situations, the din is they're chayiv mazonos. And also, there is a chiyuv in, he has the ability to be made for din nedarim. Mikol makom kasha. So we still have a question. Why does it say Bulgaris twice? Over here, it's precise. Bulgaris katani hasam. Over there, it says Bulgaris mishum deboya flugi Reb Eliezer Rabbanan. He just wants to bring down a machlokas, which we'll see in the run what that's talking about. Okay, so let's look at the run. Stop. So it says Ashmina delo nismach astama kaimer dahavi l'stam yachach machlokas. When we know when you have a mishnah which is a stam mishnah with no name and then there's afterwards machlokas, halacha is not like the stam. Nearly dehida kaimer bogeris halacha davka lav davka el loimer. The fact that it says davka is lav davka el loimer masnisin basraisa basar kamaisa. It's just to tell you that the latter one came after the first. Gerira. Delo itchil batanal ashmiinan dina de bogeris el bahanim masnisin kamaisa. Kamash one delo nismach asmach astama kama the lav diver kolhi. Don't assume and be saimich on the stam mishnah because it may not necessarily be like him. Okay. All right. Let's we're gonna stop here, but let's see another question, which is question TB16. Be'ez oifen. In what situation mishkachas la l'chad man de'emer the orus mefer levadai, that the orus is mefer by himself. So I wrote if she's a bogeres and he does it, and this is l'kuli alma. If 12 months went by and now he's chayim in mizonos, so now he could be mefer levado. Let's see if that's true. So it says, just bahagas man shenastal lehem chachamim shochelos mishalo. Okay, because that it says lachad man de oimer, but of course l'kuli alma, it's true. That's why I said l'kuli alma, that if she's a bogeres, there's nothing to talk about. At that situation, if let's say he married her when she was a bogeres, the fact that he's chayav to give her mizonos, he also has the right to be made for her nadar. Madkan.